A dad took his daughter to Walmart and never came back, but 8 years later, a woman opened a locked basement door and uncovered the truth. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. Emma Mitchell's knuckles whitened against the steering wheel as she stared at the message on her phone. It had arrived 3 hours ago from an unknown number, containing just an address and 5 words that had haunted her for weeks. She is still alive. The she was Lily, her niece, her sister Jennifer's only child, who had vanished 8 years ago at age 6. One ordinary Tuesday, Lily's father Robert had taken her to Walmart and never returned. The security footage showed them walking out calmly, getting into Robert's sedan, and driving away. The car was found 2 days later at a bus station 3 states over, wiped clean of fingerprints. Emma glanced at the dilapidated house at the end of the overgrown driveway. Weeds pushed through cracked concrete, and peeling paint hung from the siding like dead skin. The address matched the one in the message. As a detective with 15 years on the force, Emma knew she was breaking at least 4 departmental protocols. No warrant, no backup, no notification to her captain about following an anonymous tip. The case had been officially classified as a parental abduction years ago, deemed low priority after multiple leads went nowhere. Everyone had moved on. Everyone except Jennifer, who still kept Lily's room untouched, who still bought Christmas presents each year and stored them in the closet, who still jumped whenever her phone rang from an unknown number. And everyone except Emma, who couldn't shake the feeling that something about Robert's disappearance with Lily had never made sense. Her fingers found the small butterfly pendant around her neck, identical to the one she'd given Lily for her 6th birthday, just days before she vanished. Emma had bought 2, keeping one for herself, telling Lily they were magic. Whenever you touch yours, I'll feel it in mine, no matter how far apart we are. Emma tucked her service weapon into her holster and grabbed a small pink backpack from the passenger seat. Inside were basic investigation tools: gloves, a flashlight, a mini digital camera, lockpicks, and her badge, though she hoped she wouldn't need to identify herself officially. This wasn't a sanctioned visit. Stepping out of her unmarked sedan, Emma approached the house cautiously. No vehicles were visible, but the curtains in one window seemed recently disturbed. Someone had been here. The front door was unlocked. Emma's hand instinctively moved to her weapon as she pushed the door open with her elbow, wincing at the creak of hinges that probably hadn't been oiled in years. Inside, the musty smell of abandonment mingled with something else, recent human presence. A half-eaten sandwich sat on a plate in the kitchen, maybe a day old. A television in the living room was still plugged in, its standby light blinking. Someone had left in a hurry. Emma moved methodically through the first floor, checking each room before ascending the stairs. The bedrooms upstairs were empty save for a sleeping bag and a duffel containing men's clothing. No sign of a child having been here. I figured you'd show up eventually. Emma whirled around, drawing her weapon in one fluid motion, only to find herself aiming at Nash Porter, her former partner from homicide. Tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair and watchful eyes that missed nothing. Jesus, Nash. Emma lowered her gun. What are you doing here? Following you, he said simply. You've been distracted for weeks, making calls when you think no one's watching, taking long lunches to drive to places you shouldn't be, and now you're breaking into an abandoned house without backup. He crossed his arms. Want to tell me what's going on? Emma hesitated, then pulled out her phone, showing him the message. Nash read it and frowned. Anonymous tip about your niece? Emma, this could be anyone. A prank, a trap. It's the 4th message, she admitted. They started coming 3 weeks ago. Each one had a different piece of information about Lily that wasn't in the press. Things only someone who's seen her would know. And you didn't think to tell anyone? To bring this in officially? And tell them what? That I have text messages about a cold case that everyone's written off as a non-custodial parent who didn't want to pay child support? She shook her head. No one cares anymore, Nash. No one except me and Jennifer. He sighed, the sound of a man who knew better than to argue with Emma Mitchell when her mind was made up. Fine. Since I'm already here as your uninvited backup, what exactly are we looking for? Before Emma could answer, a thump sounded from somewhere below them, followed by a light scratching noise. Basement, they said in unison, both drawing their weapons. The door to the basement was under the stairs, partially hidden by an old coat rack. Emma led the way down creaking steps, flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. Nash followed close behind. The beam of light swept across the unfinished space, concrete floor, exposed pipes, a rusted water heater in one corner. The scratching sound came again, more frantic now, and a blur of movement caught their attention. A skinny tabby cat darted out from behind a stack of boxes, shooting between their legs and up the stairs. Well, that explains that, Nash said, holstering his weapon. Just a stray. But Emma wasn't listening. She was studying the far wall where a tall bookshelf stood. It was the only piece of furniture in the otherwise empty basement, and something about it seemed off. Nash, she said quietly, does that bookshelf look aligned with the wall to you? He followed her gaze, eyes narrowing. No, it's at a slight angle. Together they approached the shelf. It held nothing but a few ancient paperbacks and empty mason jars. Emma ran her fingers along the edge, feeling a slight draft. Help me move it, she said. The bookshelf was heavier than it looked, but they managed to pull it away from the wall, revealing what Emma had suspected. A door, crudely built into the wall, sealed with a heavy padlock. Well, Nash said softly, that's not suspicious at all. Emma pulled the lockpicks from her backpack. Luckily, this is one protocol I'm already breaking, so what's one more? It took 3 minutes to pick the lock. Emma had always been good with mechanical puzzles. The padlock fell away with a heavy clunk, and she pulled the door open slowly, wincing at the groan of unused hinges. The beam of her flashlight revealed a small room, no more than 10 feet square. But it was what covered the walls that made her breath catch in her throat. Photographs, dozens, maybe hundreds of them, covering nearly every inch of the concrete walls. All of one subject, Lily. There were photos Emma recognized, school pictures, snapshots from Jennifer's social media before the disappearance. But there were others, newer ones, showing a girl growing up. Some appeared to be surveillance photos, grainy and taken from a distance. Others were clearly computer-generated, age progression images showing how Lily might look at different ages. My God, Nash whispered beside her. Someone's been tracking her. In the center of the room stood a small folding table. On it sat a laptop, a stack of external hard drives, and a thick, leather-bound journal. Emma picked up the journal with gloved hands, flipping it open to a random page. Neat, precise handwriting filled the pages, documenting dates, locations, observations. She turned to the most recent entry, dated just 3 days ago. As she read, the blood drained from her face. What is it? Nash asked, looking over her shoulder. It's not what we thought, Emma said, her voice barely audible. This isn't about finding Lily, it's... She swallowed hard. These are detailed accounts of violent episodes. Jennifer hurting Lily. Multiple incidents, documented with dates, times, photographs. Nash took the journal, skimming the pages with growing concern. This says Robert didn't kidnap Lily, he took her to protect her. He looked up at Emma, his expression grave. If this is true, your brother-in-law might be the victim here, not the perpetrator. Before Emma could respond, a floorboard creaked overhead. Someone was in the house. Nash immediately killed his flashlight, and Emma did the same. They grabbed what they could, the journal, a hard drive, the laptop, and retreated to the darkest corner of the hidden room. Heavy footsteps descended the basement stairs. A beam of light swept across the main basement area, then fell on the moved bookshelf and open hidden door. "Shit," a male voice muttered. Emma held her breath as the figure, hooded and impossible to identify in the darkness, stepped tentatively into the room. The moment he saw the emptied table, he turned and bolted. "Police! Stop!" Nash shouted, but the figure was already racing up the stairs. They pursued him through the house and out the front door, just in time to see a dark sedan peel away from the curb, tires squealing on the asphalt. "Did you get a plate?" Emma asked, breathing hard. Nash shook his head. "Too far, couldn't see it." They returned to the hidden room, searching thoroughly for anything else of value. As Emma scanned her flashlight across the floor, something caught her eye, a photograph that had fallen during their hasty retrieval. She picked it up, turning it over in her gloved hands. It showed Jennifer, years younger, with an expression Emma had never seen on her sister's face, cold, disconnected from reality. On the back, written in the same neat handwriting as the journal, were 7 words that turned Emma's blood to ice. "Ask about the medication she stopped taking." Emma stared at the photograph in her trembling hands, Jennifer's unfamiliar expression burning into her mind. The message on the back felt like an accusation, one that challenged everything she thought she knew about her sister. "What medication?" she whispered, her voice barely audible in the stillness of her apartment. Nash looked up from the laptop he'd connected to the devices they'd taken from the hidden room. Found something. Several things, actually. His normally composed face showed rare signs of disturbance. "You should see this." Emma carefully placed Jennifer's photograph at the center of her coffee table, which they had transformed into an impromptu investigation board. Documents, printouts, and timeline notes surrounded it like puzzle pieces of a life she'd never suspected her sister lived. "The diary entries are dated chronologically," Nash said, gesturing to the leather-bound journal. "Robert documented everything meticulously, probably because he knew nobody would believe him, without evidence." Emma picked up the journal again, forcing herself to read passages she had only skimmed in the basement. Each entry described incidents with clinical precision, dates, times, witnesses, if any, and Jennifer's subsequent denials. January 17th. Found Jay holding Lily underwater in the bathtub. Child was struggling. Jay appeared calm, almost detached. When I pulled Lily out, Jay claimed she was just helping her practice holding her breath. Lily had blue lips and was crying uncontrollably. Jay later insisted nothing unusual happened. March 4th. Returned from grocery shopping to find Lily locked in the car. Temperature outside 84 degrees. Car interior estimated 100 degrees F+. Lily disoriented and overheated. Jay was inside the house watching TV, claimed she forgot after bringing in groceries. This is the 3rd forgetting incident this month. April 30th. Woke at 3 a.m. to Lily's coughing. Found her struggling to breathe. Jay had accidentally given her adult cold medicine. Triple the safe dosage for a child her size. Hospital visit. Doctor suspicious. Jay convinced him it was an innocent mistake. Her charm is terrifying. "Jesus," Emma muttered, closing the journal. Her stomach churned with each revelation. "He documented at least 12 serious incidents here." Nash nodded grimly. "And the digital files include photos of injuries, hospital records, and a timeline he created." He turned the laptop toward her. "Look at this. He tried to get help for Jennifer multiple times." The screen showed a calendar with color-coded entries spanning nearly 2 years. Red entries marked Jennifer's violent episodes. Blue marked appointments with doctors or therapists. Green indicated periods when Jennifer was taking medication regularly. The pattern was clear. Green periods had virtually no red incidents, but they never lasted long. "He called authorities 3 times, Nash continued, scrolling through files. Each time, Jennifer managed to convince them she was fine. There's a recording here from their last visit. He played an audio file. Jennifer's voice came through, sweet and slightly confused, perfectly reasonable. "Officer, I understand why Robert is concerned. I had severe postpartum depression after Lily was born, but I'm much better now. Sometimes he overreacts to normal parenting mistakes because of what happened before. I appreciate his caution, but I promise you, I would never hurt our daughter." A male officer's voice responded sympathetically. In the background, Robert tried to interject but was quickly silenced. "Her social skills are impeccable," Nash noted. "Even knowing what we know, I find myself wanting to believe her." Emma shook her head. "I need to talk to her doctor, the one who prescribed whatever medication she stopped taking." "You think he'll violate doctor-patient confidentiality?" "He might, if he understands what's at stake." Dr. Levinson's office was in a medical complex across town. The aging psychiatrist looked wary when Emma showed her badge, but invited her into his cluttered office nonetheless. "Detective Mitchell," he said, settling behind his desk. "I'm afraid I can't discuss any patient's treatment with you without a court order." "The patient is my sister, Jennifer Mitchell," Emma said, "and I believe her untreated condition may have led to endangering her daughter." Dr. Levinson's expression remained neutral, but his fingers tightened slightly on his desk. "Even if that were the case, I'm bound by—" "Doctor," Emma interrupted, leaning forward. "Her daughter has been missing for 8 years. Everyone believes she was kidnapped by her father. I've discovered evidence suggesting he took her to protect her from Jennifer's violence that might have been prevented with proper medication." A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, the doctor sighed. "I can't confirm or deny specific treatments," he said carefully. "But speaking hypothetically, postpartum psychosis can, in some cases, evolve into more complex conditions if left untreated. And patients with these conditions often discontinue medication once they feel better, not understanding that the improvement is because of the medication, not despite it. And if such a patient were to stop taking antipsychotics abruptly—" Dr. Levinson's gaze was steady. "Hypothetically, that could lead to escalating paranoid episodes, potential violence, and an ability to conceal symptoms from everyone except those closest to them, often the very people they believe are conspiring against them." Emma felt a chill run through her. Like a spouse who tries to get them help? Or a child who becomes the focus of their delusions? That would be a textbook presentation, yes. He hesitated, then added quietly, "Detective, if you're investigating what I think you are, be careful. Such individuals can appear perfectly rational and charming to authorities while maintaining an entirely different reality behind closed doors." As Emma left the medical building, a flash of movement caught her eye. A familiar dark sedan in the parking lot, the same one that had sped away from the abandoned house. The driver sat watching the entrance, his face obscured by a baseball cap. Emma's hand moved to her weapon as she walked casually toward her car, then suddenly changed direction, heading straight for the sedan. The driver noticed her approach, and the car engine roared to life. "Police! Stop!" Emma shouted, breaking into a run as the sedan peeled out of the parking space. She sprinted to her own vehicle, calling Nash as she started the engine. "Nash, I've got our mystery man. Dark sedan, heading east on Parkview Drive from the Medical Plaza." "On my way," he responded. "Don't engage alone, Emma." But Emma was already in pursuit, weaving through traffic, keeping the sedan's taillights in view. The chase continued through downtown, the sedan taking increasingly desperate turns, clearly trying to lose her. At a busy intersection, the sedan ran a red light, narrowly missing a delivery truck. Emma followed, ignoring honking horns. The sedan swerved onto a side street, then suddenly braked hard near a fire hydrant. Before Emma could react, the vehicle jumped the curb and collided with the hydrant, water immediately shooting skyward. Emma skidded to a stop, drawing her weapon as she approached the crashed vehicle. "Police, show me your hands!" The driver's door burst open, and a thin man with a graying beard stumbled out. For a moment, their eyes met, his wild with panic, hers determined, before he lunged at her with unexpected speed. Something flashed in his hand. Emma felt a sharp pain across her forearm as she blocked his strike, realizing too late he held a knife. She fell back, but the man didn't press his advantage. Instead, he turned and ran between buildings, disappearing into a maze of alleys. Emma started to pursue, then stopped, looking down at her arm. Blood seeped through her sleeve from a clean slice. It wasn't deep, but it stung fiercely. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called in the accident. By the time Nash arrived, Emma had applied pressure to the wound with a handkerchief. She waved off his concern. "I'll live. Did you bring the laptop?" Back at her apartment, Nash cleaned and bandaged her arm while she examined what he'd discovered. "I cross-referenced property records with the timeline from Robert's files," Nash explained. "Found a rental agreement for a small house in Port Haven, coastal town about 6 hours from here. The name on the lease is Daniel Foster, but the social security number has the same first 5 digits as Robert's, just scrambled differently. Classic identity masking technique." "He created new identities for himself and Lily," Emma murmured. "According to school records I found, a Sarah Foster enrolled in Port Haven Middle School last fall. Age matches what Lily would be now. 14. Nash pulled up a distant, grainy image from what appeared to be a school website. "It's not much, but even in the blurry photo of a school science fair, there was something in the girl's stance, the tilt of her head, that made Emma's heart clench. It's her. I know it is." "What now?" Nash asked. "We should bring this to the department, get official resources." "No," Emma said firmly. "Not yet. I need to talk to Jennifer first." "You sure that's wise? If what's in that diary is true." "It's because of what's in the diary that I need to see her," Emma insisted. "I've spent 8 years believing my sister was a victim. I need to hear her side before I do anything else." Jennifer's house looked the same as always, meticulously maintained, with cheerful flowers lining the walkway. Such a perfect facade, Emma thought, wondering how she had never seen through it. Jennifer answered the door looking irritable and anxious. Her eyes narrowed at Emma's bandaged arm. "What happened to you?" "Work incident," Emma said vaguely. "Can I come in? We need to talk." Inside, Jennifer paced the living room nervously. "You seem different," she said accusingly. "You've been avoiding my calls all week." "I've been busy with a case," Emma replied, carefully watching her sister's reactions. "Actually, that's partly why I'm here. I wanted to ask you about the time before Lily disappeared." Jennifer's body tensed subtly. "Why? Did you find something about Robert?" "I'm just reviewing old details," Emma said. "You were seeing a doctor back then, weren't you? Dr. Levinson." "Who told you that?" Jennifer's voice sharpened. "That was private. Just some postpartum issues. It has nothing to do with what Robert did." "What about the medication he prescribed? Were you still taking it when Robert left with Lily?" Jennifer's face transformed, her features hardening into something unrecognizable, the same expression from the photograph. "You've been talking to people behind my back, investigating me instead of finding my daughter." "Jen, I'm trying to understand what happened." "Understand?" Jennifer's voice rose. "What's to understand? My husband stole my child, and now you're what, suggesting I deserved it? That I did something wrong?" She grabbed a decorative vase from a side table and hurled it toward Emma, who ducked as it shattered against the wall. "You're just like the others," Jennifer screamed. "You think I'm crazy. You're working too hard, Emmy. You're seeing conspiracies where there aren't any. You need rest. You need to stop this." The excuses tumbled out, nearly identical to the ones Robert had documented her using when questioned about accidents involving Lily. Emma backed toward the door, hands raised placatingly. "Jen, listen to me. I want to help you. We all do." But Jennifer's eyes were wild now, fixed on some private horror only she could see. "Get out! Get out!" As Emma stepped outside, closing the door on her sister's rage, a devastating certainty settled in her chest. For 8 years, she had been fighting for the wrong person. The victim she had championed was actually the villain of this story. Emma slid into the passenger seat of Nash's sedan, wincing as her bandaged arm brushed against the door. The cut wasn't deep enough to need stitches, but it throbbed with a persistent ache that matched her emotional state. Through the windshield, dawn painted the sky in muted purples and oranges, a beautiful contrast to the ugliness of her discoveries. "You okay?" Nash asked, starting the engine. "No," Emma answered honestly. "My sister just tried to take my head off with a vase because I asked about her medication. Everything I thought I knew about Lily's disappearance was wrong." She touched the butterfly pendant at her throat. 8 years, Nash. 8 years of comforting Jennifer, of believing her, of searching for the wrong person. Nash navigated through early morning traffic, heading toward the interstate that would take them to Port Haven. "You couldn't have known. Jennifer fooled everyone, doctors, police, social workers. But I'm her sister. I should have seen something." Emma's phone rang, Captain Davis calling. She silenced it, knowing any explanation would take too long and sound too implausible. Her phone immediately pinged with a text message. "Mitchell, where the hell are you? We have a situation. Call in ASAP." Another ping followed quickly. "Jennifer Mitchell filed assault charges against you. Claims you attacked her last night. Needs explanation now." "What is it?" Nash asked, noting her expression. "Jennifer filed assault charges against me, claiming I attacked her." Emma laughed bitterly. "She works fast. That's why we need to bring this in officially," Nash insisted. "Let the department handle it." "With what evidence? A journal we obtained illegally? Photos we stole from a hidden room? And against my sister's word?" Emma shook her head. "Jennifer has a spotless reputation. I need to find Robert and Lily first, hear their story directly." Nash sighed but kept driving. "For the record, I think this is a terrible idea." "Noted," Emma said, staring out the window as buildings gave way to suburbs, then to open countryside. "For what it's worth, I probably agree with you." During the long drive along the coast, Emma received 3 more calls from the station, all ignored. Nash's phone rang twice as well, colleagues wondering about his whereabouts. They'd both be facing serious repercussions when they returned, but that seemed increasingly unimportant compared to what lay ahead. "What do we actually know about Robert?" Nash asked, breaking a long silence. "Beyond what was in the journal and the files. He is a software engineer. Quiet, kept to himself. I always thought he was just shy, but now I wonder if he was afraid to get close to people who might discover what was happening." Emma rubbed her temples. "Jennifer met him at a charity event. They dated for 6 months, married quickly. Lily came along a year later. Everything seemed normal until it wasn't." "And you never noticed anything off about Jennifer's behavior with Lily?" "We didn't see them that often. Jennifer always had excuses why we couldn't visit. When we did see Lily, Jennifer was attentive. Too attentive, maybe." Emma frowned at the memory. "Always answering questions for her, always keeping her close. I thought she was just protective." Her phone pinged with an incoming message. Not from the captain this time, but from a colleague named Torres. "Lady, I don't know what's going on, but your sister showed up at the station with a black eye she claims you gave her. Everyone's saying you've lost it over the cold case. Cap wants your badge when you return. Call me." Emma showed Nash the message. "She gave herself a black eye. Jesus." "She's laying groundwork to discredit you," Nash said grimly. "Smart move, actually. When we return with accusations against her, she's already painted you as unstable and obsessed." 6 hours after leaving the city, they reached Port Haven, a picturesque coastal town with colorful, storefronts and salt-weathered docks, the kind of place where people came to disappear into anonymity or start fresh. They found a small motel on the outskirts of town, checking in under Nash's name. After refreshing themselves, they drove past the address they'd identified from Robert's records, a modest blue house on a quiet street 3 blocks from the ocean. No one appeared to be home. The school first, Emma decided. According to the records, Sarah Foster should be in 8th grade at Port Haven Middle School. The middle school was a low, sprawling building surrounded by playing fields. They parked across the street, watching as students enjoyed their lunch break in the yard. Emma scanned the groups of teenagers, looking for a face that might match her memories of 6-year-old Lily, adjusted for 8 years of growth. "There," Nash said suddenly, pointing to a girl sitting on a bench with 2 other students. Even from a distance, Emma knew immediately. The girl had Jennifer's delicate features but Robert's thoughtful eyes. Her hair was different, shorter, with purple tips, but the way she tilted her head when listening was unmistakable. And there, catching the sunlight as she gestured, was a small butterfly pendant hanging from a chain around her neck. Emma's hand instinctively went to her own matching necklace, warm against her skin. "It's her," she whispered. "It's really her." They watched as Lily, now Sarah, laughed with her friends, seemingly carefree and normal. No signs of trauma, no furtive glances or nervous tics, just a teenager enjoying her lunch break. "She looks happy," Nash observed. "Adjusted." "Robert must have done something right," Emma said softly. When school ended, they followed Sarah at a distance as she walked home, joined briefly by friends before they peeled off toward their own houses. The girl entered the blue house they'd identified earlier, confirming their research. "Now we wait for Robert," Nash said, parking down the street with a clear view of the house. 2 hours later, a blue Toyota pulled into the driveway. A man emerged, bearded now, thinner, his dark hair streaked with premature gray, but unmistakably Robert Mitchell, or Daniel Foster, as he was known here. "I should approach him alone," Emma said. "2 of us might feel threatening." Nash nodded reluctantly. "I'll stay close. Be careful. We don't know how he'll react to being found." Emma walked slowly toward the house, heart hammering in her chest. Robert was retrieving groceries from his trunk when he noticed her approaching. He froze, paper bag clutched against his chest, recognition dawning in his eyes. "Robert," Emma said quietly when she was close enough. "Or should I call you Daniel now?" He didn't run, didn't deny. His shoulders simply slumped as if relieved of a great weight. "How did you find us?" he asked, his voice hoarse with disuse or emotion. "It's a long story," Emma replied. "Can we talk inside?" Robert glanced around nervously. "Is Jennifer with you?" "No, just me. And my partner who's waiting in the car." She gestured toward Nash. "We're not here officially. We just want to understand." After a moment's hesitation, Robert nodded. "Sarah's inside doing homework. Let me tell her first, then you can come in." While Robert went inside, Emma signaled to Nash that things were proceeding peacefully. 10 minutes later, Robert reappeared at the door, beckoning her inside. The house was modestly furnished but homey. Photos of Sarah at various ages lined the walls, alongside her artwork and school certificates. A normal home for a normal family, except for the security cameras discreetly positioned at windows and doors. "Sarah's in her room," Robert explained. "She was surprised to hear about you. I've always told her about her Aunt Emmy, shown her pictures, but we agreed she should get used to the idea before seeing you." "She remembers me?" Emma asked, surprised. "I never let her forget her real identity," Robert said. "She knows her real name is Lily, knows about her mother, knows why we left. As she got older, I told her more details, appropriate to her age. I didn't want her to grow up with lies." He led Emma to a small home office, unlocking a filing cabinet with a key he kept on his person. "I've kept everything, every record, every piece of evidence." He spread documents across his desk, medical records, photographs of injuries, hidden camera recordings. Some Emma recognized from the diary and files they'd discovered, but there was much more. Years of meticulously documented evidence. "I tried to get custody legally," Robert explained, voice tight with old frustration. "3 times I went to court with evidence of Jennifer's behavior. 3 times she convinced the judges she was the victim of an emotionally abusive husband trying to alienate her from her child." "Why didn't you come to me specifically?" Emma asked, the question that had been burning inside her. "I tried," Robert said simply. "The Christmas before we left, at your parents' house. I pulled you aside, tried to hint at what was happening. You shut me down, told me Jennifer had been through enough with her postpartum issues and I needed to be more supportive." Emma vaguely remembered the conversation, how uncomfortable Robert had seemed, how she'd defended her sister without a second thought. Shame washed over her. Before she could respond, the office door burst open. Nash stood there, breathless. "We've got trouble," he said urgently. "I just got a call from a contact at the department. Jennifer somehow figured out where we were headed. She's on her way here with local police. She's convinced them you kidnapped Lily recently during some kind of mental breakdown." Robert's face drained of color. "She can't take Lily back. You don't understand what she'll do." Without concrete proof of Jennifer's condition that would hold up in court immediately, custody would likely revert to her as the mother, Nash explained, grimly. "And given the charges she's filed against Emma, any testimony from us would be suspect." "Sarah," Robert whispered. "She'll be walking home from her friend's house any minute." "I'll find her," Emma said, already moving toward the door. "What route does she take?" "She cuts through Palmer Park after visiting Kaylee's house on Maple Street." Emma rushed out, leaving Nash with Robert to gather whatever evidence might help their case. She drove frantically toward the park, scanning sidewalks and shortcuts where a teenager might walk. Finally, she spotted a girl with purple-tipped hair walking alone through the park, backpack slung over one shoulder, head bobbing slightly to whatever played through her earbuds. Emma parked and approached carefully, not wanting to frighten her. "Sarah?" she called when she was close enough. The girl turned, pulling out her earbuds, wariness crossing her features. Then her eyes widened in recognition, taking in Emma's face with astonishment. "Tia Emmy?" she asked in a small voice, using the nickname she'd called Emma as a child. The emotional reunion was interrupted by the distinctive sound of a police siren. A cruiser pulled up alongside the park, and to Emma's horror, Jennifer emerged from the passenger side, tears streaming down her face as she ran toward her daughter. "Lily! My baby!" But instead of running to her mother, Lily's face contorted with fear. She stepped backward, moving behind Emma instinctively. The officers, emerging from their vehicle, hesitated at the teenager's obvious terror. Jennifer stopped, confusion crossing her features as she registered Lily's reaction. Then, as she realized she was losing control of the narrative she'd created, something in her shifted. Her face transformed into a mask of rage as she lunged forward. "What have you done to her?" she screamed, grabbing for Lily. "What lies have you told my daughter?" In her fury, Jennifer shoved Emma violently against a nearby tree, the impact sending pain shooting through her injured arm. The sudden violence before witnesses, including the police officers, finally revealed the truth Robert had tried to prove for years. Lily cowered behind Emma, her body trembling as Jennifer was restrained by the 2 officers. The teenager's eyes were wide with terror, a look Emma had never imagined seeing on her niece's face, certainly not directed at her own mother. "She's lying!" Jennifer screamed, struggling against the officer's grip. "They've brainwashed her. My daughter wouldn't be afraid of me." One of the officers, A middle-aged woman with a weathered face turned to Lily. "Honey, is this your mother?" Lily nodded stiffly, her voice barely audible. "Biologically. But I haven't lived with her since I was 6. "She kidnapped her!" Jennifer shouted. "My sister and my ex-husband stole my child." The female officer exchanged glances with her partner as they continued restraining Jennifer, whose behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. Emma gently placed her arm around Lily's shoulders. "I think we all need to go to the station and sort this out calmly," the male officer suggested, though his tone indicated he was already reassessing the situation Jennifer had described to them during the drive from the airport. In the distance, Nash's car pulled up with Robert inside. When Lily saw her father, she broke free from Emma and ran to him. Robert enveloped her in a protective embrace, his eyes never leaving Jennifer. The following hours passed in a blur of statements, evidence presentation, and medical consultations. The local police, initially summoned by Jennifer's dramatic story of a disturbed sister kidnapping her niece, quickly realized they were dealing with something entirely different. Jennifer was taken to Port Haven Hospital for evaluation after her outburst in the park escalated to attempting to attack Robert. The preliminary psychiatric assessment confirmed what Robert's documents had claimed for years. Jennifer suffered from a severe, untreated mental illness with dangerous paranoid features. 2 weeks later, Emma stood at her living room window, watching as Robert and Lily loaded the last of their suitcases into their car. The autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves and new beginnings as sunshine glinted off Lily's restored butterfly pendant. Following the incident in Port Haven, Jennifer had been committed to Lakeside Psychiatric Facility for comprehensive treatment. The doctors had confirmed her diagnosis: psychosis that began postpartum, but evolved into a complex condition exacerbated by years without proper medication. For the first time in nearly a decade, she was receiving the treatment she had so desperately needed. Emma opened her front door as Lily approached with a small gift bag in hand. "I wanted to give you this before we leave," the teenager said, her voice stronger and more confident than it had been during those chaotic first days of reunion. Emma opened the bag to find a framed photograph of Lily at her most recent school science fair, proudly displaying a project on butterfly migration patterns. Next to it was a handwritten note. "To Aunt Emmy, who never stopped believing butterflies could find their way home." Tears pricked at Emma's eyes. "I love it, but I wish you weren't leaving again so soon." Lily shrugged, a very teenage gesture that somehow conveyed both nonchalance and understanding beyond her years. "Dad says we need a fresh start. Somewhere nobody knows our story yet." "He's probably right," Emma admitted, though the thought of losing her niece again, even under these better circumstances, ached deeply. Robert approached, carrying a final box. "This is for you," he said, handing it to Emma. "The original diary and copies of all the records I kept. Not as evidence anymore, that part's over, but as a history for if Jennifer ever gets better enough to understand." Emma accepted the box, knowing it represented years of Robert's meticulous documentation, his desperate attempt to protect his daughter when no one would believe him. "I'm sorry," she said, the words feeling hopelessly inadequate, "for not seeing what was happening, for not believing you when you tried to tell me." Robert's expression softened. "You weren't the only one she fooled, Emma. Jennifer's greatest skill was always appearing perfectly normal to everyone except those who lived with her behind closed doors." "Will you keep in touch this time?" Emma asked. "Let me be part of Lily's life?" "It's Lily's decision now," Robert said, glancing at his daughter. "She's old enough to choose who she wants in her life." Lily smiled, fingering her butterfly pendant. "We'll stay connected, I promise." After their car disappeared down the street, Emma sat alone in her living room, the box of records open beside her. She had read through only portions of its contents, each page revealing another piece of the nightmare Robert and Lily had lived through. The weight of missed signs and misplaced loyalty pressed heavily on her shoulders. A week later, Emma parked outside Lakeside Psychiatric Facility for her first visit with Jennifer since the confrontation. The modern building, with its large windows and garden views, belied the security systems that kept patients like Jennifer safely contained. Dr. Matthews, Jennifer's lead psychiatrist, met Emma in the visitors' lounge. "Your sister is responding to medication, which is positive," he explained. "But I should prepare you. She's still in a state of partial denial about her actions. She acknowledges having episodes, but minimizes their severity and impact." "Will she ever fully understand what she did?" Emma asked. The doctor's expression was measured. "Recovery from this type of condition isn't linear. Acceptance of responsibility is often the last and hardest step. It could take years before Jennifer can fully process the reality of her actions toward Lily." Jennifer sat in a common room. Overlooking the facility's garden, her hair pulled back simply, her face free of makeup. Without the careful presentation she had always maintained, she looked different, older, more vulnerable. The medication had dulled the intensity in her eyes, replacing it with a slightly unfocused gaze. "Emmy," she said when Emma approached, her voice flat, a side effect of the antipsychotics. "They're keeping me prisoner here." Emma sat opposite her sister. "It's not a prison, Jen. It's a hospital. You're getting help." Jennifer's fingers twisted restlessly in her lap. "They keep saying I did things. Terrible things to Lily, but they don't understand. It was Robert manipulating everything, making me seem crazy when I wasn't." The familiar deflection of responsibility made Emma's heart sink. "Jennifer, I've seen the evidence, the hospital records, the photographs." "Photographs can be edited," Jennifer countered, a flash of her old sharpness returning. "Robert was always good with computers." Emma took a deep breath. "Do you remember the night you tried to drown Lily in the bathtub?" Jennifer's expression flickered, recognition quickly suppressed. "That's not what happened. She was splashing too much. I was just trying to wash her hair." "And the time you left her in the hot car while you watched TV?" "I was only inside for a minute. Robert exaggerates everything." The pattern continued. Each incident met with minimization, justification, or outright denial, yet occasionally Jennifer's carefully constructed narrative would briefly crack, revealing glimpses of awareness that vanished as quickly as they appeared. After 30 minutes of circling the same painful ground, Emma changed tactics. "Would you like to see how Lily looks now?" Something hungry and vulnerable flashed across Jennifer's face. "You've seen her?" Emma nodded, pulling out her phone. She had selected photos carefully, ones that showed Lily happy but revealed nothing of her location. Robert had reluctantly approved, sharing them. Jennifer's hand trembled as she took the phone, her finger hovering over the screen as if afraid to actually touch her daughter's image. Tears welled in her eyes as she swiped through the pictures. "She looks happy," Jennifer whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. For a brief moment, maternal love, real, uncomplicated by delusion, shone through the medication haze. Her hair. I always loved her hair. It was the most genuine moment of their visit, a fleeting connection to reality that gave Emma a sliver of hope for her sister's eventual recovery. But just as quickly, Jennifer's expression hardened again. "Robert turned her against me. That's why she was afraid in the park." She handed the phone back to Emma. "When I get out of here, I'll make her understand what really happened." Emma felt a chill at the determination in Jennifer's voice. The doctors had assured her that Jennifer would remain institutionalized until she no longer posed any threat, but the thought of her sister nurturing revenge fantasies instead of focusing on genuine healing was disturbing. "Jen, the only way you'll ever rebuild any relationship with Lily is by accepting what happened and taking responsibility for it." Jennifer looked out the window, disengaging. "You should go now. I'm tired." Emma left the facility feeling emotionally drained. In the parking lot, she called Nash to update him on Jennifer's condition. He had faced suspension for his role in their unauthorized investigation, but had ultimately been reinstated with a formal reprimand, the department reluctantly acknowledging that their actions, while procedurally wrong, had protected a child from potential harm. Emma's own disciplinary hearing was scheduled for the following week. She expected similar results, official censure accompanied by private recognition that the ends had, in this unusual case, justified the means. That evening, as Emma sat on her balcony watching the sunset, her phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. Opening it, she found a photograph of Lily and Robert standing in front of a new house, different from their Port Haven home. They held a small handmade sign that read, "Thank you for finding us." Below the photo were two simple words, "Until soon." Emma smiled, touching the butterfly pendant at her neck, identical to the one Lily wore. She whispered to herself, "Sometimes finding the truth means losing everything you thought you knew, but it also means gaining something you didn't even know you were looking for." The precinct fell silent as Emma walked through the bullpen Monday morning. Her 2-week administrative leave had officially ended, but the curious and judgmental gazes of her colleagues made it clear that her return wouldn't be simple. Some officers nodded respectfully. Others pointedly looked away. 8 years of searching for Lily had culminated in the discovery that her own sister was the villain of the story, and that revelation had rippled through the department like a shockwave. Captain Anderson's door was open, his stern face visible through the glass walls of his office. The personnel file sitting prominently on his desk didn't bode well. Emma straightened her shoulders and knocked on the doorframe. "Mitchell, come in and close the door." Emma complied, settling into the chair across from Anderson. The captain studied her face for a long moment before opening the file. Unauthorized investigation. Failure to report critical information. Cross-jurisdictional pursuit without proper channels. Ignoring direct orders to report in. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "That's quite a list." "Yes, sir," Emma replied, neither defending nor apologizing. Anderson leaned back in his chair. "And yet, you uncovered an 8-year-old child abduction case that wasn't even an abduction. You potentially saved your niece from serious harm. And you've exposed a dangerous mental health situation that multiple professionals missed over the years." "Sir, I'm not finished," Anderson interrupted. "Your actions violated at least 7 departmental protocols. If I went strictly by the book, I'd have grounds for termination." He tapped the file with his index finger. "But I've been a cop for 32 years, Mitchell, and sometimes the book doesn't account for every situation." He closed the file decisively. 2 weeks suspension without pay, permanent note in your record. 6 months probationary status, which means you'll be partnered with someone senior, and all your cases will require additional review. Are we clear? Relief washed over Emma. Crystal clear, sir. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. There's still the matter of your sister's accusations. While the psychiatric evaluation has largely discredited her assault claims, you should know Jennifer still has supporters here. As if on cue, Detective Ramirez walked past the office, throwing a cold glance through the glass. He and Jennifer had dated briefly years ago before she met Robert, and he had always remained protective of her. I understand, sir. Good. Clear your desk and wait for assignment. You're on desk duty for the first week. Leaving Anderson's office, Emma made her way to her desk, where several files awaited her attention. She had just begun sorting through them when she became aware of a presence behind her. So the prodigal detective returns, Ramirez said, his voice just low enough that others wouldn't hear clearly. Must be nice having a captain who looks the other way when you break the rules. Emma turned slowly. Is there something you need, detective? Just wondering if you've visited your sister lately. The sister you helped lock up in a psych ward based on some convenient evidence you and Nash magically discovered. Jennifer is getting treatment she should have received years ago, Emma said evenly. And every piece of evidence was thoroughly verified by multiple experts. Ramirez leaned closer. Jennifer called me from Lakeside last week. Says you falsified evidence to help your brother-in-law keep custody of Lily. Says you've always been jealous of her. I suggest you visit her yourself then, Emma replied, turning back to her desk. The doctors might appreciate hearing about these calls she's apparently making. After Ramirez stalked away, Nash appeared with 2 cups of coffee, setting one on Emma's desk. Welcome back to paradise. I see Ramirez is still drinking the Jennifer Kool-Aid. She's apparently reaching out to anyone who might believe her version of events, Emma said, accepting the coffee gratefully. Have you seen the news? Nash grimaced. Channel 8 ran a special last night. Family Betrayal, the Mitchell sisters' story. Complete with dramatic reenactments and wild speculation. Great, Emma muttered. She pulled up the news website on her computer, finding the story prominently featured. The headline screamed, Detective's sister claims false imprisonment after custody dispute. The article was worse than she'd imagined, featuring quotes from sources close to Jennifer Mitchell, claiming Emma had a history of instability and obsession with her niece. There was even a suggestion that Emma had romantic feelings for Robert and had orchestrated the entire situation to separate him from Jennifer. This is insane, Emma said, scrolling through the comments section where readers enthusiastically debated which sister was the true villain. It'll blow over, Nash assured her. Meanwhile, I got a call from Robert this morning. They're settled in their new place, but he's worried about the media attention. Some reporters have been trying to track them down. Emma immediately picked up her phone, but Nash stopped her. Not here. Too many ears. Let's get lunch later. That afternoon, Emma and Nash sat in a small cafe 5 blocks from the precinct, where they were unlikely to encounter other officers. Robert's concerned about Lily's privacy, Nash explained once they were seated in a corner booth. The media has her old school pictures now, and some reporter figured out they lived in Port Haven. They need legal protection, Emma said. I know a lawyer who specializes in privacy cases, especially for minors. She texted the contact information to Nash, who forwarded it to Robert immediately. On a related note, I spoke with Dr. Levinson this morning. He's willing to provide an official statement about Jennifer's condition for your disciplinary record. That might help counter whatever narrative Jennifer's spinning, Emma agreed. I should visit him again. Thank him personally. After lunch, Emma drove to Dr. Levinson's office, hoping to catch him between appointments. The elderly psychiatrist welcomed her warmly, though his eyes registered concern at her appearance. The 2 weeks of administrative leave had taken their toll, leaving dark circles under her eyes and tension in her posture. I heard about the media coverage, he said, gesturing for her to sit. Unfortunate, but not unexpected. Patients with Jennifer's condition are often extraordinarily convincing when presenting their version of reality. She's managed to get several people from my department questioning my stability, Emma admitted. The irony would be amusing if it weren't so damaging. Dr. Levinson nodded sympathetically. I've prepared a formal statement regarding my professional assessment of the situation, based on both my historical treatment of Jennifer and the current diagnosis from Lakeside. It confirms that the behaviors described in Robert's documentation are consistent with her condition. Thank you, Emma said sincerely. That might help counter some of the narrative she's creating. As she left the medical building, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She scanned the parking lot carefully, remembering her last encounter here with the bearded man who had later attacked her. Nothing seemed amiss, but the prickling sensation between her shoulder blades persisted. Instead of heading home, Emma found herself driving to the abandoned house where everything had started. Yellow police tape now cordoned off the property, standard procedure after evidence of potential criminal activity was discovered. She parked across the street, studying the dilapidated structure from a distance. Something about the house had been bothering her since their hasty departure weeks ago. What had the bearded man been doing there? Why maintain such an elaborate documentation of Jennifer's condition in a secret room? Robert's records had been thorough, but the wall of photographs in that hidden basement room suggested something more, an obsession that went beyond protective documentation. Making a decision, Emma ducked under the police tape and entered the house, using her lockpicks on the new padlock that secured the front door. The interior was exactly as they had left it, though forensic teams had clearly been through the space, leaving behind the faint residue of fingerprint powder on various surfaces. Emma descended to the basement, flashlight in hand. The bookshelf had been moved permanently, the hidden door standing open. Inside the secret room, the walls were now bare, all photographs and documents collected as evidence. But something caught Emma's eye, a small crack in the concrete wall that hadn't been visible before when the photos covered it. She ran her fingers along the fissure, feeling a slight draft. Pressing against the surrounding concrete, she felt a section move slightly. With careful manipulation, a small piece of the wall slid aside, revealing a hiding spot. Inside was an old flip phone, the battery nearly depleted but still functioning. Emma scrolled through its contents. Dozens of photographs, all focused on Jennifer. Unlike the organized documentation in the main room, these images felt different, intimate, voyeuristic. Jennifer entering her home, Jennifer shopping, Jennifer at work. Many predated Lily's birth, some going back nearly 15 years. This wasn't Robert's documentation. This was someone who had been watching Jennifer long before Robert entered the picture. Emma carefully placed the phone in an evidence bag, her mind racing. The bearded man wasn't just some accomplice of Robert's. He had his own connection to Jennifer, his own obsession that had apparently spanned decades. Back at her apartment that evening, Emma examined the phone more thoroughly. Several photos showed Jennifer with the man Emma recognized as her previous boyfriend, the one who had died in what was officially ruled an accident. Had the bearded man been stalking Jennifer even then? She was about to call Nash when a noise outside her apartment door caught her attention. Setting the phone aside, Emma drew her service weapon and approached cautiously. The door was slightly ajar. She was certain she had locked it upon entering. Pushing it open wider with her foot, gun extended in a proper two-handed grip, Emma swept her gaze across her living room. Sitting calmly in her armchair, his hands resting visibly on the armrests, was the bearded man from the chase. "Detective Mitchell," he said quietly, "we need to talk about your sister. There are things about Jennifer that even Robert doesn't know." Emma kept her gun trained on the bearded man, her breath steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. He remained perfectly still, hands visible on the armrests, his posture deliberately non-threatening. "You have exactly 3 seconds to explain why I shouldn't arrest you for breaking and entering," Emma said, her voice cold. "Not to mention assaulting a police officer." The man nodded slightly, acknowledging the reference to the knife wound he'd inflicted during their chase. "My name is David Mercer. I'm a former psychiatrist who treated your sister 15 years ago." His voice was calm, clinical, "and I'm probably the only person alive who understands the full extent of what Jennifer is capable of." Emma didn't lower her weapon. "ID." Slowly. David reached deliberately into his jacket pocket, extracting a worn leather wallet. He opened it to reveal a medical license with his photo and credentials. "Expired," Emma noted, glancing at the date. "I surrendered my license voluntarily 8 years ago," he explained. "After your sister's case consumed my professional objectivity." "You've been stalking her," Emma said, thinking of the hidden phone she'd just discovered. "For years." "Monitoring," David corrected. "There's a difference, though I acknowledge the legal system doesn't always recognize that distinction." Nash's car pulled up outside. Emma had texted him a coded alert when she'd first discovered her door ajar. The bearded man, David, glanced toward the window. "Your partner is arriving. Good. He should hear this too." Moments later, Nash entered with his weapon drawn, quickly assessing the situation. "This our mystery man?" "David Mercer," Emma confirmed, finally lowering her gun slightly but keeping it ready. "Claims he was Jennifer's psychiatrist years ago." Nash positioned himself strategically near the doorway, maintaining a clear line of sight. "And the stalker wall of photos in the basement?" "I've been documenting Jennifer's behavior since before she met Robert," David explained. "I first encountered her professionally when she was 22. She had been referred following what appeared to be a suicide attempt, though I quickly determined it was actually a manipulation tactic to maintain control over her boyfriend at the time." "Marcus Reeves," Emma said, "the boyfriend who died in an accident a year later." David's eyes flickered with surprise. "You're already investigating that connection?" "Yes, Marcus fell from a balcony during an argument with Jennifer. She claimed he was drunk and lost his balance. The police believed her." "But you didn't," Nash interjected. "I had already observed concerning patterns in our sessions," David continued. "Extreme manipulation, pathological lying, moments of dissociation during discussions of violence. When Marcus died, I became professionally troubled." Emma moved to her laptop, keeping David in her peripheral vision. She quickly searched his name, finding several academic papers on personality disorders and an old faculty profile from a prestigious medical school. "You were respected in your field," she noted. "What happened?" "Jennifer happened," David said simply. "After Marcus's death, she discontinued treatment. I should have let it go, but something about her case haunted me. I began encountering other people who had been damaged by their interactions with her, former friends, colleagues, romantic partners, all with similar stories of manipulation, gaslighting, and convenient accidents. So you decided to appoint yourself her unofficial watchdog," Emma said skeptically. "At first I told myself it was for a case study on untreated personality disorders," David admitted. "Then it became something else, a responsibility. I believed if I documented enough evidence, eventually the pattern would become clear to authorities." Nash still hadn't holstered his weapon. "And breaking into Detective Mitchell's apartment fits into this mission how exactly?" David sighed. "When I realized you had discovered my documentation room, I panicked. I've been operating in gray legal territory for years. Then I saw the media coverage about Jennifer's hospitalization and recognized your name." He turned to Emma. "I needed to know if you understood what you're dealing with. Jennifer isn't just mentally ill. She's dangerous in ways that conventional psychiatric treatment may never fully address." Emma's phone buzzed with a text from the contact at Lakeside Psychiatric Facility. "Your sister has shown remarkable improvement. Staff noting highly cooperative behavior, medication compliance, unusual progress rate." She showed the message to Nash, whose expression darkened. "She's manipulating her way through treatment," David said, reading their reaction. "I've seen this pattern before. She'll be the perfect patient, convince everyone she's responding to medication, gaining insight. Then when the restrictions loosen..." "You have recordings?" Emma asked abruptly, remembering the outline in his file. David nodded, reaching slowly for his bag. "May I?" At Emma's nod, he extracted a small digital recorder. "I've maintained contacts at Lakeside since my practicing days. An orderly placed this in the common room during Jennifer's social hour yesterday." He pressed play. Jennifer's voice emerged, subtly different from her medicated drawl during Emma's visit, more animated, focused. "The medication schedule is predictable. 3 checkpoints each day, but between midnight and 5 a.m. they only do room checks every hour, on the hour." A pause. "Marissa, you said your brother works in maintenance? Does he have access to the service corridors?" David stopped the recording. She's already mapping escape routes, identifying staff who might be manipulated to help her. This was obtained illegally, Nash pointed out. We can't use it. I'm not asking you to use it officially, David countered. I'm asking you to believe that the Jennifer in this recording is the real one, calculating, methodical, always planning her next move. Emma walked to her window, processing this information. If what you're saying is true, why focus so intensely on Jennifer? What's your personal stake in this? A heavy silence filled the room. When David spoke again, his voice had lost its clinical detachment. Because I failed to stop her once and someone died. He ran a hand through his graying beard. After Marcus, Jennifer briefly dated one of my colleagues, a promising young psychiatrist named Andrea Collins. I tried to warn Andrea about Jennifer's patterns, but she accused me of professional jealousy. David pulled out another folder from his bag, handing it to Emma. Inside was a newspaper clipping about a car accident. Andrea Collins had died when her vehicle inexplicably accelerated through a guardrail. The investigation found evidence of tampering with the brake lines, David continued, but nothing could be linked directly to Jennifer, who had a perfect alibi. She was attending a charity event with witnesses. Emma scanned the article, then looked up sharply. This was 3 months before she met Robert. Yes, and there's something else you should know, David said, his expression grim. Jennifer had a child before Lily. The statement hung in the air like a physical presence. Nash moved closer, his interest piqued. There's no record of that, Emma said, shaking her head. I would know if my sister had another child. Because she told everyone the baby was stillborn, David explained. Except hospital records show the infant was healthy, a boy. Jennifer signed adoption papers claiming the father was unknown. You're suggesting she gave up a perfectly healthy child for adoption, then years later became obsessed with keeping Lily? Nash asked skeptically. No, David said quietly. I'm telling you there's no record of that child ever being placed with an adoption agency. He vanished from the system completely. Emma felt ice spreading through her veins. Are you suggesting... I'm not suggesting anything definitively, David interrupted. But considering what we know about her behavior toward Lily, her pattern of violence... He let the implication hang unfinished. Nash had finally holstered his weapon, now fully engaged in the conversation. We need to verify this independently. Emma nodded, her detective instincts overriding the emotional turmoil. Birth records, hospital documentation. If there was a child, we'll find proof. David looked relieved. I have copies of what I've found so far. He hesitated, then added, I apologize for attacking you during our previous encounter. I've operated alone for so long, I've developed problematic instincts. That's putting it mildly, Emma remarked. Why the elaborate setup in the abandoned house? It was Robert's idea initially, David explained. After he took Lily and went into hiding, we occasionally corresponded through encrypted channels. He knew I was documenting Jennifer's behavior and suggested creating a secure location where evidence could be preserved if anything happened to either of us. Nash was checking something on his phone. His story about being a psychiatrist checks out. Dr. David Mercer was head of psychiatric services at Memorial Hospital until his resignation 8 years ago. Emma made a decision. I want everything you have, every record, recording, photograph. We'll verify it all independently. And what about Jennifer? David asked. She's already planning her escape from Lakeside. It's only a matter of time. We'll increase monitoring, alert the staff to be extra vigilant, Emma said. Though she knew institutional protocols had already failed to contain Jennifer's manipulations. We should check on Lily too, Nash suggested. If Jennifer is already working on an exit strategy. Emma nodded, reaching for her phone. I'll call Robert, warn him to be extra cautious. As she dialed, her phone chimed with an incoming call from Lakeside Psychiatric Facility. Emma's heart raced as she answered, putting it on speaker. Detective Mitchell, this is Dr. Lawson from Lakeside. Your sister has requested to see you tomorrow. She says she's been having important memories about Lily that she needs to share urgently. In the parking lot of the facility, Emma noticed an unfamiliar nurse observing her intently before making a phone call, and as she passed by, she clearly heard the words, "She just left. Yes, alone. I'll leave the back gate unlocked at midnight." The antiseptic corridor of Lakeside Psychiatric Facility stretched before Emma as she made her way toward the common room. Patients in various states of lucidity milled about under the watchful eyes of staff members. Some sat in catatonic silence, while others engaged in animated conversations with invisible companions. The controlled chaos of the ward reminded Emma of the fragility of the human mind, how easily it could fracture under the right conditions. She paused at the nurse's station, mentally preparing for the encounter ahead. Dr. Rivera approached, clipboard in hand, his expression guarded. "Detective Mitchell, before you see your sister, I should warn you that Jennifer has been showing signs of what we call accelerated improvement," he explained, lowering his voice. "This can sometimes be genuine, but in patients with manipulative tendencies, it often indicates they're learning to present symptoms the way they think we want to see them, rather than experiencing actual recovery." "So she's gaming the system," Emma translated bluntly. Dr. Rivera's lips tightened. "I wouldn't put it quite that way officially, but yes, that's our concern. She's been remarkably compliant, engaging positively with group therapy, taking medication without complaint. For someone with her diagnosis, this level of cooperation this quickly is unusual." "Has she made any specific requests beyond seeing me?" "She's been inquiring about outdoor privileges, phone access, and the visitor policy." He hesitated. "Specifically, whether minors can visit with appropriate supervision." Emma felt a chill. Even here, Jennifer's focus remained fixed on Lily. "Thank you for the warning," Emma said. "I'll be careful." Jennifer sat by a large window overlooking the facility's garden, sunlight casting her profile in soft relief. Without her usual carefully applied makeup and styled hair, she looked simultaneously more vulnerable and more authentic. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers occasionally twitching, a side effect of her medication. She turned as Emma approached, and for an instant, her expression was unguarded, calculating, assessing. Then, it transformed into a mask of fragile recovery, eyes brightening with manufactured warmth. "Emmy," Jennifer said, her voice deliberately softened. "You came." Emma sat in the chair opposite her sister. "The doctor said you wanted to see me. Something about memories of Lily?" Jennifer nodded, leaning forward slightly. "The medication, it's helping me see things clearly now. I think I understand what happened." "What do you think happened, Jen?" Emma asked carefully, watching for the subtle tells she now recognized. The slight narrowing of the eyes, the calculated pauses designed to elicit sympathy. "I was sick," Jennifer admitted, tears welling up convincingly. "After Lily was born, something changed in my brain. I couldn't control my thoughts sometimes." She shook her head sadly. "But Robert, he didn't try to help me. He used my illness against me." Emma noted how Jennifer observed her reaction, adjusting her performance accordingly when Emma's expression remained neutral. "The doctors here say I had postpartum psychosis that developed into something more serious," Jennifer continued. "But I'm starting to remember things. How Robert would hide my medication, then tell everyone I refused to take it. How he'd provoke episodes, then document them as if they were unprovoked. That's not consistent with the evidence, Jennifer," Emma said evenly. Jennifer's expression flickered, irritation quickly masked by confusion. "What evidence? Robert's journals? You can't trust those, Emmy. He fabricated everything to justify taking Lily. There were hospital records, photographs, witness statements. All manipulated, Jennifer insisted, her voice rising slightly before she caught herself. You don't understand how tech-savvy he is. He could doctor any image, create any document. And the incidents witnessed by neighbors, the teachers who reported concerning behaviors. Jennifer leaned in closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. Robert was charming, convincing. He poisoned everyone against me slowly, made them see what he wanted them to see. Emma noticed how Jennifer's speech patterns had changed, more coherent than during her previous visit, as if she were practicing for evaluation. The medication should have made her slightly less articulate, not more so. I have memories too, Jen, Emma said. Of things you said about Lily before she disappeared. Comments about how she was difficult on purpose or manipulating you when she was just a normal child having normal reactions. Jennifer waved this away. That was the illness talking. I didn't mean those things. Do you remember giving her cold medicine that sent her to the emergency room? A moment of hesitation, almost imperceptible. Robert switched the bottles. He made it look like I gave her the wrong dose. Emma pulled out her phone, watching Jennifer's expression sharpen with interest. Would you like to see how Lily looks now? Hunger flashed in Jennifer's eyes. Yes, please. Emma showed her the same carefully selected photos from her previous visit. Jennifer's hands trembled as she took the phone, her finger hovering over the screen. Her expression as she studied Lily's features was possessive, not loving. A collector examining a prized object rather than a mother missing her child. She's so beautiful, Jennifer whispered. Where was this taken? It looks like mountains in the background. Emma noted the fishing expedition. Just a scenic lookout near their new home. Which state? Jennifer asked casually. That's not important right now, Emma replied. Jennifer's jaw tightened momentarily before relaxing into a smile. Of course, I miss her so much. As she handed the phone back, Jennifer seized the opportunity to ask, has she asked about me? Does she remember me at all? She remembers you, Emma said truthfully, watching her sister's reaction. When can I see her? Once I'm better, I mean. The doctors say I'm making excellent progress. That would be up to Lily, Emma replied. She's 14 now, old enough to have input into those decisions. Jennifer's expression hardened momentarily. She's still a minor. I'm still her mother. A mother who tried to drown her, Emma said, the direct confrontation intentional. Jennifer's reaction was telling. Rather than showing confusion or denial as would be consistent with her claim of not remembering her episodes, she immediately launched into justification. That's not what happened, she snapped. She was splashing too much, being defiant. I was just trying to wash her hair properly. Robert twisted everything. Emma leaned forward. You just described the incident in detail, Jen. If you truly didn't remember it, how could you explain specifically what happened? Realizing her mistake, Jennifer quickly backpedaled. I've been piecing things together from what people have told me. My memories are still foggy. I think your memories are perfectly clear, Emma said quietly. I think you remember exactly what you did to Lily. Jennifer's composure slipped further, her medication-dulled eyes suddenly sharpening with cold clarity. You think you know me, but you don't. You never did. The conversation continued its circular pattern, Jennifer alternating between playing the confused victim and making calculated attempts to extract information about Lily's whereabouts. Emma maintained firm boundaries, providing no useful details while carefully noting each manipulation tactic. Across town, Nash and David Mercer sat hunched over a laptop in the county records office, meticulously piecing together Jennifer's past through school files they'd been granted access to review. Look at this, Nash said, pointing to a disciplinary note in Jennifer's high school record. 3 separate incidents involving classmates' pets going missing when they angered her. Each time, she was the last person seen with the animal. David nodded grimly. Classic early warning sign. Did any of the pets reappear? No, Nash said, scrolling through additional notes. And here, a teacher reported finding her hidden journal with disturbing drawings of classmates being injured in various ways. The school recommended psychological evaluation, but her parents apparently never followed through. They were in denial about her condition, David explained. I interviewed them once years ago before they died. They acknowledged Jennifer had difficult phases, but insisted she was just misunderstood and too smart for her own good. Nash continued examining the records. There's a pattern of Jennifer inserting herself into tragedy. When another student's parent died, Jennifer suddenly became that student's closest friend, only to completely destroy their reputation weeks later through elaborate rumors. Back at Lakeside, Emma stood to leave, having gleaned what she could from the interaction. Jennifer's performance had been revealing, not in what she'd said, but in the calculation behind every word and gesture. I should go, Emma said. I have an appointment this afternoon. As she turned to leave, Jennifer suddenly grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. You think you know me? She repeated, voice dropping to a whisper. But you don't know what I'm capable of. The naked threat hung in the air between them. Emma looked pointedly at Jennifer's hand until she released her grip. Actually, Jen, I'm beginning to understand exactly what you're capable of. Jennifer's expression shifted instantly to vulnerable as a nurse approached, her eyes filling with tears. Please don't go yet, Emmy. I'm so scared here by myself. Ms. Mitchell needs her rest now, the nurse said sympathetically, clearly responding to Jennifer's performance rather than the tension that had preceded it. Emma left the facility feeling emotionally drained, yet grimly determined. In the parking lot, her phone chimed with a message from Nash. Found something about her parents. You need to see this. As Emma crossed the parking lot, she noticed an unfamiliar nurse watching her intently. The woman looked away quickly when Emma met her gaze, then pulled out a phone and dialed. Emma slowed her pace, maneuvering within earshot just as the nurse spoke. She just left. Yes, alone. I'll leave the back gate unlocked at midnight. Emma drove as if chased by demons, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. The nurse's words echoed in her mind. I'll leave the back gate unlocked at midnight. Jennifer was planning her escape, and she already had help inside the facility. She pulled up outside her apartment building to find Nash and David waiting in Nash's car. Neither man wasted time with pleasantries as she approached. We need to talk, Nash said grimly. Not here. 20 minutes later, they sat in an improvised investigation room in Emma's apartment. The walls were covered with photographs, timelines, and connection charts, a visual representation of Jennifer's life that became more disturbing the deeper they looked. Jennifer's parents died in a house fire when you were both in college, Nash began, pinning a newspaper clipping to the wall. Ruled accidental. Faulty wiring in an old house. I remember, Emma said quietly. I was in my second year at the academy. Jennifer called me in the middle of the night, hysterical. David stepped forward, his expression troubled. Did she ever mention waking you up earlier that same night? Before the fire was reported? Emma's blood ran cold as a fragmented memory surfaced. Jennifer standing in the doorway of her bedroom, backlit by the hallway light. The smell of smoke clinging to her clothes. Words whispered in the darkness. I had to do it, Emmy. They didn't understand us. I thought it was a dream, Emma whispered, the realization breaking over her like an icy wave. I convinced myself I dreamed it because the alternative was unthinkable. The fire investigator noted that the bedroom doors were locked from the outside, Nash said, pointing to a detail in the report. That detail was buried in the final assessment because they assumed it was an old house with quirky locks that engaged accidentally. She trapped them inside, Emma said, the truth finally crystallizing. My own sister. David nodded solemnly. Based on the timeline I've constructed, Jennifer's violent behavior began manifesting clearly during puberty. around age 13. The onset coincides perfectly with certain personality disorders that reveal themselves during adolescent development. Emma moved to the timeline wall, examining photographs of Jennifer throughout her teenage years. She'd always seen her sister as the golden child, beautiful, popular, charismatic. Now she recognized the calculating coldness behind the practiced smile, the possessive way Jennifer clutched at friends who soon disappeared from her life. "Every animal that ran away in our neighborhood," Emma murmured. Every time someone who angered Jennifer had an accident, it was all her. Nash received a text message, his expression darkening as he read it. "My contact at Lakeside just confirmed that Jennifer has been steadily gaining privileges for good behavior. She's already manipulated a newly hired nurse and 2 patients with grounds access to help her." Emma described the conversation she'd overheard in the parking lot. "She's planning to leave tonight at midnight through the service gate. We need to alert the facility." "Not yet," David cautioned. "If we warn them directly, Jennifer will simply delay and create a new plan. She'll know someone exposed her. We need to catch her in the act." "And risk her actually escaping?" Nash challenged. "She won't get far," David assured them. "I'm guessing she believes she has transportation arranged once she's outside the facility. We can intercept her then, when she's committed to the attempt and can't deny her intentions." Emma nodded slowly. "He's right. This is our chance to expose her true nature to the medical staff. If they catch her sweet, compliant act falling away during an escape attempt, they'll reevaluate her entire treatment approach." As Nash organized surveillance for the facility that night, Emma pulled out a box of childhood mementos she'd rarely examined. Inside were photographs of her and Jennifer as children. She spread them across the kitchen table, looking for signs she should have recognized years ago. "What are those?" David asked, approaching cautiously. "Family photos. I'm trying to see if there were warning signs even earlier than her teens." Emma pointed to a Christmas photo. "Look at her expression here. Everyone else is smiling naturally, but Jennifer's smile doesn't reach her eyes." She was 7. David studied the photographs with clinical interest. Children with these conditions often show subtle signs very early, difficulty with genuine emotional connections, calculated rather than spontaneous reactions. Emma found a newspaper clipping she'd forgotten. Jennifer, at 16, receiving a community service award, standing beside her favorite teacher, Ms. Winters. "I remember this. Ms. Winters died in a car accident just weeks after this picture was taken. The brakes failed." A chill ran through the room as the pattern became impossible to ignore. "Did Jennifer ever talk about the future when you were young?" David asked. "About what would happen after tragedy?" Emma froze, a memory surfacing with terrible clarity. "The week before our parents died, I found Jennifer in her room surrounded by magazine clippings, articles about families who started fresh after losing everything in fires or natural disasters. She told me she was doing a school project on resilience." Nash returned from making calls, his expression grim. "I've arranged for trusted officers to maintain surveillance on Lakeside tonight. If Jennifer attempts to escape, we'll have her movements documented from the moment she leaves her room." "What about Robert and Lily?" Emma asked, suddenly anxious. "If Jennifer escapes—" "I've already warned him," Nash assured her. "They're increasing security at their new place, and Lily won't be left alone until we resolve this situation." As evening approached, they formulated their plan. Nash coordinated with his police contacts, ensuring they remained officially uninvolved but strategically positioned. David provided detailed information about Lakeside's layout, including blind spots in their security system that Jennifer might exploit. "The service gate she mentioned leads to a maintenance road," David explained, sketching a rough map. "It's used for deliveries and waste removal, hidden from the main entrance by a stand of trees. If she exits there, she'll likely have a vehicle waiting, or she'll move through the woods to the highway quarter-mile east." Emma studied the map, tactical training taking over. We'll need 3 positions. 1 at the gate itself, 1 covering the maintenance road, and 1 near the highway access point. 4 positions, Nash corrected. Someone needs to watch her room from outside, confirm when she leaves. They gathered necessary equipment, night vision binoculars, radios tuned to a private channel, and Emma's service weapon, which she hoped wouldn't be necessary but wasn't willing to leave behind, given Jennifer's unpredictability. As darkness fell, a tense silence settled over the apartment. Emma stared at the timeline they'd constructed, the photographic evidence of her sister's lifelong deception. "How did I miss this?" she whispered, more to herself than the others. "All these years, all these signs." "We see what we expect to see in those we love," David said quietly. "Family blindness is the strongest form of denial." At 11:30 p.m., they drove separately to Lakeside. The facility's main building glowed with security lighting, while the surrounding grounds remained largely dark. A vulnerability in the security system that Jennifer had obviously noted during her daily observations. Emma positioned herself near the service gate, concealed in dense shrubbery with clear sight lines to both the gate and the approach from the main building. Nash took position covering the maintenance road, while David monitored the highway access point. One of Nash's trusted officers, a detective named Ramirez, watched Jennifer's window from the cover of trees at the property edge. Their radios remained silent as midnight approached. Emma checked her watch repeatedly, adrenaline sharpening her senses. The night air carried the scent of pine and damp earth as a light fog began rolling across the grounds. At precisely 11:55 p.m., her radio crackled softly. "Movement at target's window," came Ramirez's whispered update. "Light just went out." 5 minutes later. "Confirmed target has exited room, moving through internal corridor toward East Wing." Emma tensed, eyes fixed on the service gate. The lock had indeed been left disengaged, just as the nurse had promised. Nash's voice next. "Confirmed service door opening. Target exiting building with 2 individuals. Appears to be patients in facility uniforms." Emma adjusted her position slightly, getting a better view as 3 figures emerged from a side door, moving with purpose toward the gate. Jennifer led the group, her movements displaying none of the medication-induced slowness Emma had observed during her visit. Behind her followed 2 men, patients Jennifer had clearly recruited for her escape. "She's using them as cover," Emma whispered into her radio. "If spotted, she'll claim they manipulated her into leaving." The trio reached the gate. One of the male patients pushed it open while Jennifer scanned the darkness beyond. For a moment, her face caught the distant security light, expression alert, calculated, utterly devoid of the vulnerability she'd projected during Emma's visit. The group passed through the gate and moved quickly down the maintenance road, staying close to the tree line, for concealment. Emma followed at a distance, communicating their position to the others. Nash's voice came through again. "Vehicle spotted at road endpoint. Dark sedan, engine running, lights off." "Can you see the driver?" Emma asked. "Negative. Tinted windows." Emma continued her careful pursuit, staying hidden as Jennifer and her accomplices approached the waiting vehicle. The 2 male patients hung back slightly as Jennifer moved directly toward the car, the driver's window lowered, and Emma strained to see who was inside. The night vision binoculars revealed a young man, likely the nurse's boyfriend or brother Jennifer had mentioned recruiting during the recorded conversation. Just as Jennifer reached for the car door, floodlights suddenly illuminated the entire area. Lakeside security had discovered the escape in progress. Alarms blared from the main building, and security personnel began emerging from various posts. The 2 patient accomplices panicked, turning to flee back toward the facility. The sedan's engine revved as the driver prepared to abandon the scene, but Jennifer moved with shocking speed, yanking open the door and forcing her way into the vehicle before it accelerated away. "Target in vehicle!" Emma shouted into her radio, sprinting toward the maintenance road. "Black sedan heading toward highway access." Nash's car roared to life as he moved to intercept. Emma rushed to her own vehicle, heart pounding. The facility's security team was now fully mobilized, but their focus remained on the two patients who'd been left behind. At 11:55 p.m., positioned strategically near the back gate of the clinic, Emma, Nash, and the small team of support received an alert over the radio. An attendant was found unconscious inside the institution. The internal alarm had been disabled, and Jennifer was not in her room. She had already begun her escape through a different route. Chaos engulfed Lakeside Psychiatric Facility as emergency lights flashed through the fog-shrouded grounds. Staff members rushed through corridors, checking rooms and securing exits, while the facility's director barked orders into a radio. Emma and Nash pushed through the confusion, badges extended. "We need to know exactly how she got out," Emma demanded, confronting the security chief. "We were watching the service gate, but she must have had a different exit planned." The security chief, a former military man named Grayson, pointed to a facility map. "We found Stevens, one of our night attendants, unconscious in the East Wing supply closet. His access card is missing and the alarm system for Zones 3 and 4 was disabled from the main security panel." "She's been planning this for weeks," Nash observed, "memorizing patrol patterns, identifying vulnerabilities." "The unconscious attendant, will he be okay?" Emma asked. "Concussion, but stable. Claims he never saw who hit him." David approached, having completed a perimeter check. "She didn't go through any of the monitored exits. There's a maintenance tunnel in the northeast corner that connects to the old administration building. It's supposed to be sealed, but the lock was broken from the inside." "And now we've lost her," Emma said, frustration evident in her voice. "She's outmaneuvered us." Nash's phone chimed with an alert. "Maybe not. Highway Patrol just spotted a vehicle matching our description heading east on Route 16. Driver matches Jennifer's description." Emma glanced at the facility map again, noting the location of the highway relative to their position. She planned multiple exit strategies and contingencies. The service gate was probably her backup plan, not her primary escape route. "She's using the attendant's stolen car," Grayson added, checking his tablet. 2015 Nissan Altima, gray. License plate just flagged in the system." "We need to move," Emma said. "She's got at least a 15-minute head start." Outside, they split up. Nash and David in one vehicle, Emma in another. They coordinated with Highway Patrol to establish likely intercept points, but avoided calling for roadblocks that might send Jennifer into desperate measures. "She'll avoid main highways once she realizes we're tracking the car," Emma said over the radio. "Looking at the map, she'll probably exit at Millbrook Road and take county back roads." "Agreed," Nash responded. "We'll cover the western approach. You take the eastern route." Emma accelerated through the darkness, the tactical part of her mind calculating Jennifer's most likely movements, while another part struggled with the enormity of what her sister had become. Using her knowledge of Jennifer's psychology, Emma tried to think one step ahead. "She needs supplies, money," Emma muttered to herself. "She won't have much cash on hand from the facility." A realization struck her. Emma grabbed her radio. "Nash, there's an all-night convenience store at the Millbrook exit. It's the only place open at this hour where she could get cash from an ATM." "On it," Nash responded. "We're 5 minutes out." Emma made a hard turn onto a county road that would intersect with Nash's route, pushing her vehicle to its limits. Her instincts screamed that Jennifer wouldn't flee randomly. She had a specific destination in mind. Her phone rang. Captain Anderson. Emma hesitated, then answered on speaker. "Mitchell, what the hell is going on? I've got Highway Patrol calling about an escaped psychiatric patient and your name's all over it." "Sir, my sister Jennifer has escaped from Lakeside. We have reason to believe she's heading toward Lily's location." "Your niece? I thought she was safe with her father." "She is, for now," Emma replied, taking a sharp curve at dangerous speed. "But Jennifer has been planning this escape meticulously. She may have already figured out their new location." A long pause. Do you need backup? Yes, sir, but keep it quiet. No sirens, no radio chatter that she might pick up. Understood. Sending units to your GPS location now. Anderson hesitated. Mitchell, be careful. Family situations are the most volatile. I know, sir. Emma ended the call as she approached the convenience store where Nash and David were already parked. The store clerk confirmed that a woman matching Jennifer's description had been there 20 minutes earlier. She'd purchased energy drinks, snack foods, and a prepaid phone. Security footage showed Jennifer appearing remarkably composed, nothing like the sedated patient Emma had visited hours earlier. She must have been palming her medication for days, David observed, watching the footage, building up her clarity and energy for this escape. The clerk says she asked for directions to Highway 27, Nash added. That heads north toward the mountains. Emma felt a chill. Robert and Lily are staying near Lake Arrowhead. Highway 27 goes right past it. How would she know that? Nash asked, alarmed. I don't know, Emma admitted, but I need to warn them now. She called Robert, relief washing over her when he answered immediately. Emma, what's wrong? Jennifer's escaped. We think she's heading your way. A sharp intake of breath. How? How could she possibly know where we are? I don't know, but you need to secure the house. Is Lily with you? Yes, she's asleep. Emma, we've been careful. No social media, cash only. Different names. The security cameras you installed, are they recording? Yes, to a cloud server. Check them now. See if anyone's been watching the house. While Robert checked his security system, Nash received an update from Highway Patrol. The stolen Nissan had been abandoned at a rest stop 10 miles north, and a witness reported seeing a woman matching Jennifer's description getting into a black pickup truck. She's switching vehicles, Nash said. Smart move. Robert came back on the line, his voice tight with fear. There was someone, a woman in a delivery uniform yesterday. She dropped off a package, but we never ordered anything. I thought it was a mistake. What was in the package? Just packing material. Empty box. It was reconnaissance, Emma realized. She was confirming your location. David, who had been reviewing the convenience store footage again, called them over. Look at this, he said, pointing to Jennifer's hand as she paid for her purchases. A small metallic object glinted in her palm. Is that a gun? Nash asked, leaning closer. She's armed, Emma confirmed, reaching for her radio. We need to update all units. Suspect is now in a black pickup, armed and heading north on Highway 27. As they rushed back to their vehicles, Emma's phone rang again, this time an unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello, Emmy. Jennifer's voice, clear and focused, sent ice through Emma's veins. I see you're following me. Always the dedicated detective. Jennifer, stop this now. Turn yourself in before someone gets hurt. A cold laugh. Always so predictable. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you watching the facility? That I wouldn't have multiple escape plans? What do you want, Jennifer? What I've always wanted. My daughter. The one you helped steal from me. Lily is safe and happy, Emma said, trying to keep her sister on the line while Nash traced the call. She doesn't need to be traumatized again. Traumatized? Jennifer's voice hardened. Is that what Robert told you? That I traumatized my own child? Did it ever occur to you that a 6-year-old can be manipulated, coached to fear her own mother? I saw her reaction to you in the park, Jen. That wasn't coached fear. Because she hadn't seen me in 8 years. Robert poisoned her against me and you helped him. Emma signaled to Nash, who mouthed, Keep her talking. If you care about Lily, you'll consider what's best for her, Emma said carefully. Forcing your way back into her life at gunpoint, isn't it? I'm her mother. Jennifer's controlled facade cracked slightly. We've always been meant to be together, just us. Everyone else tries to come between us. Robert, the doctors, now you. Something in Jennifer's phrasing triggered a memory. Emma recalled David's revelation about Jennifer's first child, the baby boy who had supposedly been given up for adoption, but had no adoption records. "What happened to your son, Jennifer?" Emma asked quietly. Silence crackled over the line. When Jennifer spoke again, her voice had changed, colder, more detached. "I don't know what you're talking about. The baby you had before Lily, the one who disappeared from the system." Another long pause. "You've been talking to David Mercer. I should have guessed he'd find you eventually. Always poking into my business, always trying to prove his theories." "What happened to the baby, Jen?" "He wasn't meant to be," Jennifer answered, her voice disturbingly serene. "He wasn't perfect. Not like Lily. Lily was perfect from the moment I saw her." A chill ran down Emma's spine at the implication. Nash signaled that he'd gotten a location on the call, a cell tower near the mountain road leading to Lake Arrowhead. "Jennifer, listen to me. There are police all over the highway now. You won't reach Lily. Please turn yourself in." "You think I'm on the highway?" Jennifer laughed. "Emmy, I've been planning this for weeks. I'm already where I need to be." The call ended abruptly. Emma stood frozen for a moment before snapping back to action. "She's already near the house," she told Nash and David. "The highway pursuit is a distraction." "How is that possible?" Nash asked. "The facility just reported her missing an hour ago." "She must have had help on the outside," David suggested. "Someone who's been watching Robert and Lily, feeding her information." Emma tried calling Robert again, but the call went straight to voicemail. "We need to get there now." They raced toward Lake Arrowhead, Emma's mind filled with terrible possibilities. As they wound up the mountain road, Nash received an alert from Highway Patrol. They had stopped the black pickup truck, but the driver was an elderly man who claimed a woman had paid him $200 to drive north. Jennifer had created another diversion. When they finally reached the small community where Robert had rented a home, Emma spotted emergency lights in the distance. Her heart sank as they approached to find two police cruisers outside Robert's house, their lights painting the trees with red and blue pulses. A local officer approached as they parked. "Detective Mitchell?" "We responded to a 911 call from this residence. Homeowner reported an intruder." "Robert Mitchell, is he okay? And his daughter?" The officer checked his notes. "Sir is fine, minor injuries. But when we arrived, the daughter wasn't here. According to the father, she was taken by the intruder." Emma's world tilted sickeningly. Nash steadied her as she swayed on her feet. "There's something else," the officer added, leading them toward the house. "We found this taped to the front door." He handed Emma a sealed envelope with her name written on it in Jennifer's distinctive handwriting. Inside was a single photograph, Lily as a small child, sleeping peacefully in her bed. On the back, Jennifer had written, "Always were only the two of us. I'm going to save my daughter from all of you." Pink and orange streaks painted the morning sky as Emma, Nash, and David arrived at the coastal town where Robert and Lily had made their new home. Exhaustion lined their faces after the night-long drive, their bodies running on caffeine and desperation. Emma had tried calling Robert repeatedly, but after their initial frantic conversation, his phone had gone silent, another detail that amplified her fear. "3 missed calls from the captain," Nash muttered, checking his phone as they pulled into town. "The department's mobilized a task force. They're coordinating with local police." Emma nodded absently, her focus elsewhere. "We need to get to the house first, before the area's swarming with officers." The local police had established a small command center in a coffee shop parking lot. Emma flashed her badge, receiving a quick briefing from the officer in charge. Local units had already secured a perimeter around Robert's residence but hadn't approached the house yet. Standard procedure for a potential hostage situation, especially with a child involved. "Any sign of movement inside?" Emma asked. "Negative. Property appears quiet. Neighbors confirmed they saw a woman matching your sister's description in the area yesterday, wearing a delivery uniform. Emma, Nash, and David drove to the blockade nearest Robert's house, parking behind a police cruiser. The morning sun now illuminated the modest single-story home, with its freshly painted blue trim and carefully tended garden, the new beginning that Robert had created for Lily, now violated by Jennifer's intrusion. "Front door's intact," Nash observed, studying the house through binoculars. "But that back window's been broken. Entry point." Emma approached the officer in charge. "I need to go in. I know the subject better than anyone." "Can't authorize that, Detective. Protocol says none. The subject is my sister, and she has my niece. If anyone can talk her down, it's me." After a tense negotiation, they developed a compromise. Emma would lead the entry team with Nash as her backup. The local officers would maintain the perimeter, while David remained outside to advise on Jennifer's psychological state if needed. The team approached cautiously, weapons drawn. At the front door, Emma discovered it was unlocked, another worrying sign. She pushed it open slowly, announcing their presence as procedure demanded, though she doubted Jennifer would respond. The interior showed clear signs of struggle: an overturned coffee table, a lamp shattered on the floor, a streak of blood smeared across the cream-colored wall. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs as they cleared each room methodically. Kitchen, clear. Bathroom, clear. Bedroom 1, clear. Then Nash's voice, tighter than before. "Emma, in here." She found him in Robert's bedroom, crouching beside the bed where Robert lay unconscious, a gash on his forehead crusted with dried blood. Emma checked his pulse, steady, but his breathing was shallow. "Call the paramedics," she ordered, gently shaking Robert's shoulder. "Robert, can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered, then opened. Confusion clouded his gaze momentarily before panic replaced it. He tried to sit up. "Lily." "Easy." Emma steadied him. "What happened? Where's Lily?" "Jennifer," he gasped, wincing as he touched his head wound. "She was waiting when we got home from the art center. Had a gun. I tried to keep Lily behind me, but..." His voice broke. "She hit me with something. When I came to, they were gone." "When was this?" Nash asked. "Yesterday afternoon. I tried to call you," Robert said to Emma, "but she took my phone." Emma's blood ran cold. Jennifer had had Lily for nearly 18 hours already, long enough to be anywhere. Paramedics arrived to treat Robert while Emma and Nash continued investigating the house. In the kitchen, Emma found Lily's phone discarded on the counter, deliberately left behind. In Lily's bedroom, dresser drawers stood open, clothes missing. Jennifer had packed for her daughter. "Nash!" Emma called, noticing something glinting on the floor near Lily's bed. She knelt to examine it. Lily's butterfly pendant, its delicate chain broken as if torn from her neck in a struggle. Emma closed her fingers around the small silver charm, an inexplicable certainty forming in her mind. She wouldn't leave this willingly. This was her connection to her real life. To me. Nash appeared in the doorway. "Found something." Robert's laptop was left open, browser history showing searches for art programs in the community center. That's how Jennifer knew where to find them, Emma realized. She'd been monitoring their movements. David joined. Them, having been cleared to enter now that the house was secured. "Any indication where she might have taken Lily?" Emma shook her head, frustration mounting. Then another thought struck her. The community center. Lily mentioned she had art classes there on Wednesday mornings. "Today is Wednesday," Nash noted. "Jennifer would know Lily's routine by now," Emma said. "She might use familiar places to try to establish a sense of normalcy, make Lily comfortable with her." It was a thin lead, but the only one they had. The team regrouped outside, coordinating with local police to organize a search pattern centered on the community center and surrounding areas. Robert, despite the paramedics' protests, insisted on joining them. "I know how she thinks," he said, pressing a bandage to his head. "And Lily will look for me." They divided into search teams. Emma and Robert would check the community center, while Nash and David coordinated with police to cover nearby areas where a woman and teenage girl might go unnoticed. The Coastal Community Center was a converted Victorian building, painted cheerful blue and yellow, its large windows overlooking the harbor. Wednesday morning art classes were already underway, but a quick check confirmed Lily wasn't among the students. She would have known that bringing Lily to her scheduled class was too obvious, Robert said, leaning against a wall for support, as dizziness from his concussion threatened his balance. They were about to leave when Emma noticed a flyer pinned to the community board. Additional art workshop, watercolor landscapes, Wednesday 10th a.m., Beach Pavilion. "The beach," Emma said, suddenly alert. Lily mentioned loving to paint the ocean. They hurried to the small wooden pavilion at the north end of the beach, a quarter-mile from the center. As they approached, Emma spotted them. Lily sitting at a picnic table with an easel set up before her, Jennifer beside her, one hand resting possessively on the girl's shoulder. No one else was around. The morning too cool for beachgoers, the location too remote for casual passers-by. "Call for backup," Emma whispered to Robert, "but stay here until they arrive. If she sees you, she might panic." Robert reluctantly agreed, ducking behind a nearby restroom building while Emma touched her holstered weapon for reassurance and approached alone. Jennifer spotted her when she was still 30 feet away. Emma watched her sister's expression transform from surprise to calculation to resolute determination. Jennifer's hand moved to her jacket pocket, where the gun likely waited. Lily looked up then, her face showing a complex mixture of fear and relief at seeing her aunt. Jennifer leaned close, whispering something in Lily's ear that made the girl's face pale. "That's far enough, Emmy," Jennifer called when Emma was 15 feet away. "We're having a mother-daughter morning. You weren't invited." "I've been worried about you both," Emma replied calmly, stopping as instructed. "The police are searching everywhere." "Let them search," Jennifer said dismissively. "By tonight, we'll be somewhere they'll never find us." She turned to Lily with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Won't we, sweetheart? Our fresh start." Lily remained silent, her gaze darting between her mother and aunt. Emma noticed bruising on the girl's wrist, evidence of Jennifer's forceful grip, of Lily's resistance. "Lily," Emma said gently, "are you okay?" Before Lily could answer, Jennifer cut in. "She's perfectly fine now that she's with her mother. Tell her, Lily." The teenager swallowed hard. "I want to go home. To Dad." Jennifer's expression hardened. "We've discussed this. Your father kept us apart with lies. He made you afraid of me. But that's over now." Emma took a careful step closer. "Jennifer, you know this isn't right. Lily deserves to choose." "Choice?" Jennifer laughed bitterly. "Was I given a choice when everyone decided I was too dangerous to be near my own daughter? When you helped Robert hide her from me for 8 years? In the distance, Emma spotted Nash and 2 local officers approaching along the beach boardwalk. She needed to keep Jennifer talking, prevent her from noticing them or fleeing with Lily. "I made mistakes," Emma admitted. "I should have seen what was happening years ago. Should have gotten you help sooner." "Help?" Jennifer snarled. "You mean drugs to make me compliant? Doctors telling me my feelings for my daughter are wrong?" Her hand emerged from her pocket, confirming Emma's fear. She held a small revolver, now pointed loosely in Emma's direction. Lily gasped, shrinking away from her mother. "Please don't hurt Aunt Emmy." "I won't have to if she lets us leave," Jennifer said, her voice frighteningly reasonable. "We can all walk away. You and me, Lily, to the car I have waiting. Emma stays here until we're gone." Emma saw Nash signaling from behind a nearby dune, indicating officers were moving into position to surround them. She needed just a few more minutes of distraction. "Jennifer," Emma said softly, "think about what Lily wants. Look at her face. Is this how you want your relationship to be? Built on fear? Something flickered in Jennifer's eyes. A momentary doubt quickly submerged beneath familiar determination. She'll understand eventually. Once we're away from all of you, she'll remember how things used to be. I remember, Lily said suddenly, her voice stronger than before. I remember the bathtub, Mom. I remember not being able to breathe. Jennifer's expression contorted with betrayal. That's not what happened. Your father twisted your memories. No, Lily continued, tears streaming down her face. I remember the car, how hot it was. I remember calling for you and you couldn't hear me through the closed windows. While Jennifer's attention focused on Lily, Emma inched closer, calculating the distance, preparing to lunge for the gun if necessary. Jennifer's face transformed completely, the careful mask of maternal concern giving way to raw fury. This is what they've done to you, she hissed, grabbing Lily's arm. Turned you against your own mother. Everything happened at once. Jennifer yanked Lily to her feet, the gun wavering between Emma and her daughter. Nash and the officers emerged from cover, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Robert appeared from behind the restroom building, running toward them despite Emma's earlier instructions. Jennifer, seeing herself surrounded, made a final desperate choice. She pointed the gun at Emma. This is your fault. It's always been your fault. As her finger tightened on the trigger, Lily acted with unexpected courage, driving her elbow hard into her mother's ribs. Jennifer stumbled, the gun discharging harmlessly into the sand as Emma tackled her sister to the ground. In the chaotic moments that followed, Jennifer screaming accusations as officers restrained her, Lily collapsing into her father's embrace, Nash securing the weapon, Emma found herself strangely calm, as if watching the scene from a distance. Later, after Jennifer had been taken away in a police cruiser, after statements had been given and the initial crisis had passed, Emma sat alone on the beach, watching waves crash against the shore. The butterfly pendant rested in her palm, its silver wings catching the midday sun. Robert approached, Lily beside him. The teenager looked exhausted but resolute, the ordeal having awakened something stronger within her. She sat beside Emma, looking at the pendant. She broke the chain when I wouldn't go with her willingly, Lily explained. Said if I couldn't appreciate what it represented, I didn't deserve to wear it. Emma placed the pendant in Lily's hand, closing the girl's fingers around it. We'll get it fixed. Some things can be fixed, Lily said with wisdom beyond her years. Others can only be accepted and moved past. Emma nodded, understanding the deeper truth in her niece's words. As they sat together, watching the ocean, a family pieced together from broken parts, Emma realized they had all been changed by Jennifer's darkness, scarred but not defined by it. 3 months later, Emma sat in the visitors area of a maximum security psychiatric facility, watching as Jennifer was led to the table. Her sister moved differently now. The proper medication regimen had subdued her more dangerous impulses, but also dimmed the intense charisma that had once defined her. Emmy, Jennifer acknowledged flatly, taking her seat across the table. You're looking well. How are you, Jen? Emma asked, studying her sister's face for signs of the true Jennifer beneath the medicated exterior. Better, they tell me. Jennifer's gaze wandered to the window before snapping back with unexpected clarity. Some days, I remember things as they actually happened. Those are the worst days. That's progress, Emma said gently. Recognizing reality is the first step toward... Toward what? Jennifer interrupted. Forgiveness? Rehabilitation? A relationship with the daughter who thinks I'm a monster? Her laugh held no humor. We both know I'll never leave this place. Treatment takes time, Emma offered, though without much conviction. The doctors had been clear. Jennifer's condition was deeply entrenched, her potential for recovery limited by decades of reinforced patterns. "I dream about her," Jennifer said suddenly. "Lily. Not as she is now, but as she was at 6, before Robert took her away." A tear slid down her cheek, perhaps genuine, perhaps calculated. Emma could never be certain. Was I really so terrible, Emmy? Did I deserve to lose everything? The question hung between them, impossible to answer with both honesty and compassion. Before Emma could formulate a response, Jennifer's momentary vulnerability disappeared behind a familiar mask of resentment. "You still have your life," Jennifer said, her voice hardening. "Your career, a relationship with my daughter. You took everything from me." "No, Jen," Emma replied firmly. "Your choices did that." When Emma returned to her apartment that evening, she found Lily waiting, overnight bag in hand for their planned weekend together. Robert, now confident that Jennifer was securely confined, had agreed to remain in the same city, allowing Emma and Lily to rebuild their relationship without fear. As they prepared dinner together, Lily chatted about school, friends, her art projects, normal teenage concerns that seemed miraculous after all they'd endured. The butterfly pendant hung from a new chain around her neck, matched by the one Emma still wore. Emma's phone chimed with a message. A photo from Robert showing Lily's latest painting, a butterfly emerging from a dark cocoon, wings spread toward sunlight. Beneath it, Lily had written a simple title, Transformation. Emma smiled, touching the pendant at her throat, identical to the one Lily wore. She murmured to herself, "Sometimes finding the truth means losing everything you thought you knew, but it also means gaining something you didn't even know you were looking for."